A warm welcome to all CFA Level 1 students. This is a recorded session which I had taken with a student of mine for financial reporting and analysis. So let's begin the topic. Thanks.
Because on the income statement, if you think about it, there can so like in the Indian format, I'm just saying so that you understand. This is the P&L, profit and loss account, the same. So on the right hand side, revenues will be there. And you'll also have gains and profits. And on the left hand side, you'll have expenses and you'll also have losses. Okay. So if you think about it, for us, it doesn't matter whether it's an expense or a loss, it will be deducted.
It will balance. Yeah.
If it's a revenue or a gain, it will be added. So it is basically the equation is revenue plus gains on the right hand side minus expenses plus losses. Okay. So this is what will give us the net income for the year, right? But why I have selected these two, revenue and expenses? Because I'll tell you, this is the core part of the business. And this is the non-core part of the business.
Yeah, true.
Because when you're talking about revenues, you're always talking about your own merchandise, whatever your means. Okay. Suppose you are into buying and selling of cars or manufacturing and selling of cars, whatever. You are Maruti, you manufacture cars and then sell. So this will revenues minus the expenses. These expenses will be what is the manufacturing cost for the car, including your material cost, including your labor cost, including everything, the conversion cost, the factory.
I know,
So all of that. And this will be the sales figure, the final sales figure, which is there. This is the core part of the business. But this, when you talk about something as gains or losses, what this means is you're maybe selling some machinery which you have has become old. Okay. Now you want to sell it off. In making the sale, a profit or a loss. So that will come as a gain or a loss. Okay. So this is not part of your business. This is non-core. And you're less interested in this. I'll tell you why you're less interested in this. Because this is something which is not sustainable, Shalja. Okay. So when you're trying to value a company, you only focus upon this core part primarily. Because this is something on the basis of which you can make predictions, you can make forecasts. But these are only one-off kind of items, right? When you're selling an asset or doing something, this will happen only once. This will not happen in the future. So
in the future,
So you're only interested in this part, revenues minus expenses, which doesn't mean that in the income statement, all of these will be there. The net income will have all of these, right? But then you'll
that's true.
Out the core part from the non-core. Okay.
Non-core part. Got it. Yeah.
And on this, there's another point which I think I'm maybe preempting it in a way. It will come later on. I'll just tell you, companies always try to show that their core profits are higher. Companies also know the analysts are always checking for core and the analysts are not interested in the non-core. Okay. So whatever you think about it, there might be at times expenses. It is not only non-core, doesn't only have gains and losses. It can also have expenses, which are not a part of the core. Okay. The companies always tries to show expenses which is happen from the core part. They try to push it to the non-core part.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah. Can you hear me, Shalja?
Yeah. I'm able to hear you.
So this is what they do many a times. Huh? So they're trying to push expenses, which are actually a part of their core business, by trying to show as a non-core expense.
Bibas, 1 second, I'll get my computer charger.
Yeah, sure. That's fine. Please, I'll just make one more point on this, which is important. Just 1 second. So, okay. The other point which is important about this is let's suppose a company, basically what they try to do, they're always trying to show that their core profits are higher. Okay. If you think about the core, revenue minus expenses, core revenue minus core expenses, right? This is core. Let's say, just example, this is core part of the business. Then revenue minus expenses, this is non-core. And this can be gains and losses also. It can be revenue and expenses also. I'm just saying, suppose like we discussed, some company which is manufacturing cars. Okay. But it also has some possession like land. it has land, it has some investments, let's say some share investments and all that, right? These are non-core because this is not their main businesses, manufacturing cars and selling. But they also have other items on the side which they are holding, right? If they make any profits out of this, this will be also a part of the income statement, but this will be a part of the non-core. Okay.
Non-core, yeah.
Companies always try to do some expenditure which is a legitimate expenditure from the core part of the business. They'll try to show it as actually it is non-core. What they do every year, suppose there's some kind of let's say reorganization has happened on the plant, the factory, etc. Okay, and it is actually an expense which happens every year. It hasn't happened a one-off thing. It actually keeps on repeating. If you analyze that for 5 years, you'll find out it's happening every time. But the company, their income statement, they put it as a restructuring charge. Okay. The moment you put it as a restructuring, it is taken as non-core because it's not something one-off kind of a thing. So they'll try to they try to push it from here to here. Then what happens is your core revenue will be more, your core income will be more. The companies do all these kind of tricks. So you think about it. So this is trying to push it down. They call it as trying to push down expenses. Why they say down? When you write this income statement, you will have revenue, you will have cost of goods sold, you will have what you call as gross profits, then you will have minus what you call as selling, general and administrative, SG&A, then you will have core income. Okay, core income.
Core income,
After that, you will have other items, and down this, you will have non-core and all that. Okay, so this is called as pushing it down. They try to push the expenses down. Pushing it down means they're trying to show it as a part of the non-core, the expenses. Okay, but the revenues from non-core, they're always trying to show it as core. They've got some land holdings, which is just on the side, they had taken this land, and now they've made some profits out of that. They might try to show it as there are a lot of companies which have tried doing all this earlier. Now the regulations have become much more stricter, even in the US and all, right? They earlier trying to always show a part of the non-core profits as a part of core profits and core expenses as non-core, so that this part becomes higher, this part becomes lower. For them, manipulations always happen. Just bear this in mind. I want you to just keep this in mind. So whenever they're trying to manipulate, they have all of this in, because the analysts are only concerned about this part mainly. The core. Okay.
The core.
So, fine, making sense as of now.
All
clear?
Yes.
Okay. Then revenue definition mentions something that it says in the normal course of business. So this is again, so whenever a company makes money and it is in the normal course of business, it means it's a part of their core business.
Yeah.
In the normal course of business, they've got this much of money, which means it's core. If it is not normal course of business, it might be non-core. Okay?
Non-core, got it.
So these words are important. So net revenue is gross revenue minus allowances minus return of goods, like we discussed already. Okay, this is again. This is already. And on top of the income statement, we have this figure, not the gross figure, but this figure. Okay, always.
This figure,
So, fine. Now we are just okay, Shailja, there's this very important concept in accounting, which is called as a matching concept. Okay. So, do you know about this concept? How is it? Have you heard about this matching?
Every debit entry, there should be a credit entry. Is that the same thing?
Okay, not exactly, Shailja. No. What you're talking about is so what you call as dual. What do you call that? Duality.
Accounting, is it?
Yeah, duality.
Okay, duality.
It's double entry bookkeeping, right? Double entry bookkeeping. And so double entry bookkeeping, always there must be a minimum of one account which gets debited, one account which gets credited. So you're talking about this. This is called as duality of bookkeeping. No, this matching concept is something which is within this. Okay, what happens in the matching concept is, so this is important concept, because for you to understand a lot of concepts, now this matching is very important, and this very basic but very easily understandable. Okay, so someone asks you the question, Shailaja, that what are the expenses? Okay, so a company makes a lot of expenses. Okay, what are the expenses which should be considered as a part of the income statement? So the income statement basically is, as we keep on repeating, it's just revenue in a very summarized way, revenue minus expenses
is
equals to profits, net profits. Very summarized way, I'm just putting it. Okay. Now, what are the expenses which should be considered? Suppose someone asks you, this seems like a ridiculous question. What expenses? The expenses which are made for the year, right? But why this is important is, so there's this, so a lot of expenses which happens now, Shailaja, for this year, might not happen for this year only, might happen for the future also. So there might be expenditures which have happened now, but which is going to benefit the company for the next 10 years. Okay.
Yeah.
But then we should not charge everything for this year, right? If I've bought a, let's say, for example, suppose we have bought a machinery for 100 crores. Okay.
Yeah.
This machinery is going to last for the next 20 years, suppose, example. Okay.
Yeah.
So the entire 100 crores we cannot charge to this year, na? That would be illogical, isn't it? That will not be logical, because this is going to benefit us for the next 20 years. So this is where the matching concept is important. So if someone asks you what expenses should you consider in the income statement, the answer would be the expenses which are made to get revenue for this year. Whatever expenses you're making to earn the revenue for this particular year or this particular period, the income statement can be for a quarter also. It can be for a quarter, for a year, for a half. If it is for a quarter, then whatever expenses are helping you to get the revenue only for this quarter is what should be a income statement. Okay.
Got it.
Suppose, for example, I'll just give you an example. Suppose you have made some advance payment, okay, which is for the next 5 years. The company has made an advance payment for the next 5 years. Okay. So all of that will not put as an expense for this year. Because of the matching concept. What is the matching concept? We'll only consider that part of the expenses which are made for getting. So why are we spending? We are spending to get the revenue. Okay.
True.
Doing just to get the revenue for this period for which we are making the income statement is what is to be considered. Okay.
Got it.
That is the whole concept of matching. It is very important, especially for income statement. Okay.
Got it.
And there are a lot of uses of this. You've heard about the term depreciation or amortization, right?
So
like we gave the example of a machinery which was bought for 100 crores. Okay. And we know that the life of the machine is 20 years. And I'm keeping it simple. There are many ways to do it. But then what we'll do is typically we'll do 100 by 20. This is called a straight line method. There are other methods also, but just trying to keep it simple. 20 years. So every year we'll charge 5 crores to the income statement. Okay. And because of the matching concept, because we know again next year, because think of it this way, we are using only 1/20th part of the machine for this year. Okay. Again, next year we'll only use 1/20th of the total of the machine. And so the matching concept, whatever part we are using to get the revenue for this year is what we are considering as an expense for this year.
Got it. Yeah.
Clear on this part, Shailaja? This one is clear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Shailaja, just one small question. I spoke about the fact that we have bought this machine for 100 crores. Okay. This plant or machinery or whatever you call it for 100 crores. And then for this year, we have used 5 crores out of that. So this 5 crores will be what we call as a depreciation. Correct?
Yeah.
Depreciation of 5 crores. So now we have 95 crores left. Yeah, for the machinery.
Yeah.
Now, Shailaja, just try to think about it. Where does this depreciation go? Where will this go? Sorry for the writing. Can you understand? This is legible, I hope.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I
think Would it go in expense or loss?
Absolutely. Spot on. This is what is the expense. Okay. I'm just trying to confuse you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
because
got
this is
it.
again the same matching concept. Okay. So we have
Yeah.
100 divided by 20. Every year we are expending 5 crores here. This is the expense.
Yeah.
Like absolutely. The depreciation is the expense. Okay. Now the second part of the
Yeah.
question. What happens to the rest of the 95 crores? Where does this show up in the financial statements, Shalja?
Gain?
Yes. Go ahead. Sorry.
Would it be part of gain, is it?
No, no, no.
Or
No, no.
OCI?
Gain is only when you're selling or doing something. Okay. Gain is only when you bought the machine. You haven't done anything with the machine as of now. You just kept it with you and using it for production, right? So there's no gain.
Yeah.
No, what I mean is this will be a part of the balance sheet.
Okay, assets.
Yeah, assets. Absolutely. This is an asset. So,
Okay.
so
Got
I'll just
it.
try to, just 1 second. Okay. This, yeah. You can see the whiteboard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just saying, so what happens is, sorry. So let's say this is the balance sheet. And you'll have assets here. You'll have liabilities here. It is ulta. India, assets is this side, liabilities is that side. Okay. Abroad, assets is this side, liabilities is this side. Fine. Okay.
True. Yeah.
So suppose you have this machinery which we are talking about. What you'll do is, so you'll show it as like this. There are 2 columns, inside column and outside column, they call it. But anyhow, let's keep it simple. 100 crores. This is all in crores.
100 crores.
100 crores. And then you'll say minus depreciation, 5 crores. This is basically what you've included as the expense for this year in the other statement.
True.
The balance sheet.
Yeah, income
statement.
statement.
Income statement. Yeah. Okay.
True. Yeah.
95 is what is left here. So this 95 is what is called as the book value for the machinery or the carrying value. Carrying value.
Okay.
Or the book value. On the asset side of the balance sheet. Again, next year, what will happen? Suppose we make the balance sheet for the next year. We'll do 95 minus 5. This will become 90.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you think
again,
about
it will be carrying value.
Yes. In terms of the cash flow, if you think, Shalja, but we have actually made the payment of 100 crores, right? There's an actual outflow in buying the machinery of 100 crores, correct?
Yeah.
But we have only taken 5 as the expense for this year. In the income statement, this is the balance sheet. Now I'm talking about the income statement. Okay.
Yeah.
In statement, in expenditure part, this is expenses, let's say, and this is revenue. Expenses, we have only taken this 5 crores. Correct? So this is because of the matching. Yeah. This is because of the matching concept. Now, something which is very important, Shalja, and which I want you to just, this is a very important topic which will keep coming up, okay, in different parts, which is very important, I feel, is companies, okay, what they'll try to do, any big spending which they do, like this 100 crores I'm saying, any big spending, they all try to show it as an asset and not as an expense for the year. Okay, because the moment they show it as an expense for the year, the net profits for the year will go down. Now, the obvious question in your mind will be, can they do that? The point is, there are a lot of ways to bend the rules in accounting. The problem is, okay. So, I'll just delete this. This part is okay now. Can I delete?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, okay, I'll just do canvas, clear the canvas. Fine. So, Shalja, just think about it this way. So, there's a definition of asset. Okay.
Yeah.
Definition is that future economic benefits.
Yeah.
Benefits are expected. Okay.
Yeah.
Now there are a lot of things which are at the discretion of the management here. The biggest one is this, expected. So the management can see it as expected, it is not expected, depends upon how they want to twist it. I'm just saying, this is left to the discretion of the management. Later on, the auditors will come, they'll check and all that is fine. But generally speaking, it is left to their, okay. Now what happens is, whenever a company makes a big spending, let's say 100 crores is spent for advertisement and promotion of some product, okay, trying to sell. So there's a big investment, right? 100 crores has gone. Now the company can always say that future economic benefits are expected because we have made this ad campaign. We know that the sales is going to increase over the lifetime now. For a long period, this will go up. But the problem is you cannot be sure about it, right? You can never be sure about this kind of an ad campaign. It's very difficult to place a finger upon it and say, okay, the sales have gone up by this much because of ad. It is very
because of the ad, you can't quantify it.
Yeah, to quantify it, absolutely. So that is why what happens is these kind of things might not fit the definition of an asset. Might not fit the definition of an asset. Okay, like we're talking about research spending.
Research.
So these are big spendings, right? But are you sure about the future economic benefits? You're not.
Not sure.
Because it can happen, might not happen. The problem with companies is because these are big expenditures, what happens is if you put it as a part of the income statement, then minus expense, this is a huge expense, right? All of these 100 crores and all. So what will happen? The profit will go down if you put it here. So they'll try to twist it and say it fits the definition of an asset. Because the moment you do that, what will happen? This will, if this gets identified as an asset, whatever, let's say I've given 2 examples, there can be 10 other items also. Okay. There can be 10 other things like we discussed restructuring, for example. Whenever you're making a big spending, the companies try to prove that this spending is meeting the definition of an asset. And this is going to benefit the company for a long term in the future. And that is why it meets the definition of an asset. If the company is able to do this, then they will identify this. They'll put it here on the asset side of the balance sheet. Asset liability, this will be along with building, plant, machinery, whatever.
Machinery,
They'll put this item also. Let's say just for example, a restructuring. They'll put it here. What is the advantage now? So it is like killing two birds with one stone. One is your assets will go up. The moment the assets of a company is higher, it is taken as a good thing for the company, right? The assets are high.
True.
For a company, because the balance sheet size increases, whenever they approach any creditors, any banks, etc., for loans, etc., for borrowings, so the banks will go on the basis of the asset size and all that, right?
Assets.
So they able to show that the assets are higher. Okay. And the bigger thing is they do not put it here. The moment they do not put it here, their profits get boosted for the year because this is a huge expense otherwise. Correct?
That's true.
So they are always trying to push all of these into the balance sheet and not into this.
Income statement, got it.
Income statement. Okay, so that is always what they try to do. And likewise, there's another thing which they try to do. Think about it. Like they're trying to reduce this. They're trying to always increase this, right? The revenue. So there might be some capital, what you call as a capital profit. Okay. Which is like, we'll come to that topic at a later point. They try to push it from the balance sheet in here as a revenue.
Got it.
Are you getting it? So they are trying to manipulate this figure as well as this figure. So this figure goes up as good. This figure goes up as good. So by putting any of these as an asset, if they're able to prove that, they don't have to prove to anyone. They just have to make their financials. Later on, the auditors might question them. That is another matter.
True.
And it might not go through, but they'll always try to put it here. Okay.
Got it.
So some software is getting developed, just for example's sake, and you do not know whether finally it will actually be something which is commercially viable, right? So we are till that time, whatever expenditure goes in cannot be considered as an asset. But after it has already become commercially viable, then you can put it in the balance sheet. Then it is logical sense. Okay. And when you put items in the balance sheet, what do? You'll put this and just deduct and amortize. Let's say there's 100 crores, and for the next 10 years this will go on. So you'll just deduct. You'll do like you did depreciation there. You just do minus amortization or whatever 10. So next year this will become 90, and only this 10 gets charged here. In place of the 100, the expenditure only becomes 10, and so the profits get boosted by 90. Let's say, just for example. Okay.
Got it.
Clear on this one? This is a very, very important point, and this stems from the matching concept, Shelja. This stems comes from the matching concept, which is you'll only consider the expenses for the year which you're using to generate the revenue for the year, not the entire thing. Okay. And this thing which we're talking about of basically recognizing something as an asset is called as capitalization. Okay. Capitalization. So when in accounting books and also in your finance books, you'll many times find the term capitalization. When they say we have capitalized this spending, which means instead of putting it as an expense, they are putting it as an asset. That is called as capitalization. They've capitalized this, and now every year they'll charge something out of this. I made a spending of 100 crores. Every year for the next 10 years, I'm going to charge 10 crores. And where the charge will go, it will go as an expenditure, like the depreciation. Okay. And this will remain in the balance sheet. This will remain in the balance sheet. So that way the companies kill two birds with one stone, like I mentioned. Okay. Clear on this part? Clear on this?
Yes.
Okay. This is a very important point. I'll just delete this. Can I delete this?
Yes.
I'll clear the canvas. Okay. Now let's go back to the slides. Okay. So we are here, and so we have discussed about, we are discussing about this matching concept basically. Okay. This concept is what we are discussing about. Expenses can be grouped by nature or function. So this is talking about the format of the income statement. I just delete this, Shelja. This part I'll delete now.
Sure, yeah.
So, sorry. Okay. So now here they are talking about the format in which the income statement can be made, and we'll see a format. I think a format should be here. Just one second. Okay, this is the format of the income statement. See, Shelja, we have net sales here. We have net sales minus the cost of goods sold. Okay, this gives us gross profit. Then we have SG&A, selling, general and administrative expenses, which gives us the operating income. Like I mentioned, this is core. This is the core part because this is operating income. Yeah. Then we have minus interest and dividend, which we pay out. This is basically the financing charges, and this is basically the dividends which we pay, minus interest expenses. Okay. So this I think, okay, this I'll need to check, because if this is minus, this should be plus, or this can be plus. I think what they've done, I'll tell you, this is plus. So this is interest which they've got. Okay.
Yeah, true.
Other companies, borrowings, not borrowings.
Income, dividend and interest income. Yeah.
Just whatever investments they have made, these are the and then minus interest expenses.
Minus it.
Okay, this is the financing charge. This is for the borrowings which they've got, how much they have to pay. Okay. Then you find non-operating gains or losses. So this is basically, this item within it has gains minus losses. This is the net of that. This item is the net of these two. So suppose you've got a machinery which has become old, you've sold it, whether you've made a gain or loss. Suppose you're holding some land apart from the business which you're into, whether you've made gains or loss, all of that is a part of this non-operating. This is not core, non-core.
Yeah.
So all of this, so net of this, gains losses or revenues, expenses, whatever. Then this is called as income from continuing operations. So what is income from continuing operations? Whatever businesses your company might be into, okay. So these are the businesses which it plans to continue in the foreseeable future, because there might be some business which you have closed down also, okay, which you're not going to continue in the future. So that will come here. You see income, gains or losses from discontinued operations will also come.
Got it.
And this is always a net figure. This is always a net figure, net of taxes.
Yeah.
This figure is always net of taxes. But anyhow, we are here, income from continuing operations before tax. And then you charge the tax, provision for tax. Okay. Provision for tax. And then you find out income from continuing operations. So this is income from continuing operation. This is important, but for us, this is the most important figure. When you're doing analysis, so because this is the core part, right? This is the core. Non-core. Okay. And now it is debatable whether this should be a part of core or not. US GAAP, this is a part of core, because see, ultimately these are expenses for financing whatever money you're taking. You have to pay the interest upon that, right? So as per US GAAP norms, what happens is this is a part of core. You have to deduct it from here. And then you find out the core income as per US GAAP. But as per IFRS, this is not a part of the core. You'll find that. I'm not discussing too much about this because this gets discussed more in the cash flow statement.
Got it.
When we discuss cash flow statements, that time we'll have more of a discussion about this US GAAP and IFRS. What is the difference in the treatment of this item? Okay. So then, we have income from continuing operations. Then we'll either add if it is a gain or deduct if it is a loss from discontinued operation. So discontinued operation is something which we have decided to close the business. Okay. And this is net of taxes, because when we close a business, we have to pay the Internal Revenue Service, IRS in the US, etc. All the taxes, what needs to be paid. And after that is what you have discontinued operations, gains or losses. This is a net figure. And then this total gives you what is called the net income. Okay. So two things which are important here, Shailja, which I want you to notice. One is that this net income figure, okay, normally we always talk about what is the company's net income for the year. Okay, that is as if you think about it, the most sacrosanct kind of a figure, right? That is like, oh, that is the one figure. But that is a very diluted figure if you think about it. This figure has non-core, number one. Okay, all of this non-core is there. Okay, it also has discontinuing operations. Okay.
Yeah.
All of these are not very reliable things, right? Because these will be just one-off things. Discontinued operations. So all of these, this net income figure is actually a very diluted kind of a figure. But this figure is what we need to focus upon, the operating income. If you need to know the health of a company, you'll have to check on the basis of this, the net operating income. Because all of this is just one time. All of this is not reliable. Because, so that is why, so you just need to be mindful of this. I'm not saying net income is not important. I'm just saying it is a figure where a lot of things goes in, and it can be manipulated to a large extent. The operating income cannot be manipulated as much as the net income. But the cash flows are even less accessible to manipulation, let's say. If you're talking about the cash flow figures. Here we are, see, when you're discussing about the income statement, Shailja, this is another thing which you should keep in mind. This is on the basis of accrual, right? Accrual concept. What is accrual? So even if we haven't got the payment for something, still we have recognized the revenue, depending upon the rules. Okay, which we'll have in this chapter. All of those rules are also here. So I'm saying the income statement is made upon the basis of what is called as the accrual concept, not on the basis of cash. Not on the basis of cash. Okay. So that is why whenever there's accrual, it can be manipulated by the management. There are a lot of estimations.
Got it.
Yeah. So that is something which you need to keep in mind. Okay. So for example, suppose I'm a bank. I'm let's say Axis Bank. Just giving you one example. Okay. Suppose I'm Axis Bank. Okay. And for a bank, when you have assets and liabilities, the primary assets are what? The loans which you give, right? The loans which you give. So suppose X bank has some 10,000 crores, I don't know, whatever, 10 billion, which they've given as loans. Okay. Now, this figure will have something which is called as provisions. Provisions are basically how much of this you expect you might not get back from the customers. And you make an internal estimation for this, okay, which is called as provision. And this provision goes into the income statement as an expense. This statement, it will go as an expense in this, okay, and it's a part of it is a part of this cost of goods sold. For a bank, this will be a part of cost of goods sold, because goods for a bank is loan. They're giving loan, right? Loan is a good. So why this is important? This is a figure which is completely left to the whims and fancies of the management. You think about it. I'm not saying there are a lot of laws of risk management which has to be followed. A lot of adherence and compliance norms. All of that is there, but all of that are pliable to be. They're pretty pliable kind of laws. They can be bent. Okay. So I just give you the intuition that a lot of this can be manipulated because of the accrual concept. All of this does not involve any cash outflow or inflow. Okay, these are all and stuff like that. So never think that a balance sheet or an income statement for a company is anything which is sacrosanct. Not even a single figure out of that might be completely sacrosanct. You can debate about each of the figures more or less. So when you do auditing, and which is not a part of CFA, so leave it, but you have as assertion. Assertion is every single item in this. You have to prove that it should be around that. You're trying to assert that, cost of goods sold is this much. Net sale. There's a lot of manipulation, which it is prone to manipulation, basically. Okay.
Got it.
So, okay. So let's go back to, So we were here. We're discussing about the fact that expenses can be grouped by nature or by function. What is the meaning of this now? So, So when you talk about anything which is grouped by nature, so let's say by nature, so what this means is, okay, I'll give you that same example of a company which is into manufacturing of cars. Okay. So maybe a Jaguar or a Maruti or whatever, Tata's, whatever. Okay. Now, when you're doing this, so you think about it. So first of all, there's a factory, right? Not one factory, maybe 10 factories, but at least one factory. So this factory has machinery and all that. Okay. And the machinery basically gets used for 10 years, 5 years, 15 years, depending upon what kind of machinery you're using. So you'll have to depreciate it over a period of time. Fine. Now, so the machinery in the factory has depreciation costs. Yeah. Okay. Now, the same company, let's say whatever, Maruti, okay, also has administrative offices in different places. It has got offices in different locations. It also has a headquarter, let's say, and all of those places also have furnitures and all that, right?
True.
Furnitures, it will have whatever items you can think about, the interiors, etc., whatever they have done, carpeting. Okay. So these are also items which will be used over a period of time. So this will also have depreciation. Correct. Now, one depreciation is happening here in the factory. The other depreciation is happening here in the headquarters. Actually, if you think about it, you should not club all of this, because it makes no sense. How will you analyze anything on the basis of all of this, right? All of this getting mixed up. Okay. But when you are trying to club something on the basis of nature, it means like this. If you put on the income statement, if you have this item depreciation, that depreciation includes factory ka depreciation, as well as headquarters ka depreciation, as well as whatever depreciation might be there.
Got it.
Okay, that is by nature. That is by nature, it is getting done. Likewise, suppose you have an item in the income statement which is for rent, which you're paying. Okay? Rent you're paying, which is also an expenditure, because income statement has revenues and expenditures. Like depreciation, it also has rent. So if you have factory ka rent which you're paying for 10 factories, if you have headquarters ka, if you're paying rent for any other item, all of that will be clubbed together as rent. This is by nature. When you club things by nature, it is like this. So rent, whatever comes under rent, everything is put under the same one. Depreciation, whatever comes under that, everything is put together. Okay. But when you go by function, then you'll go separately. You'll go for the factory, how much? Okay. For the headquarters, how much? So then what happens is, so suppose here, so I'll delete this. I'll delete this part. Okay. So here, when you go on the base of function, what happens is you'll go like this. Within cost of goods sold. Okay. So whatever is the depreciation, you'll make it separately. So COGS, here we have just got the summary of the income statement. Okay. If I break it up, make it properly, separately, if I make it properly, I'll have net sales minus, I'm just saying, just to give you an intuition, minus, let's say, material cost, because we are building cars, there will be iron, there will be aluminum, there will be whatever. Okay. Material cost minus, there will be labor cost. And again, labor cost can be direct, indirect. Material cost can be direct, indirect. I'm not getting too much into it. Whatever is covered in this curriculum, I'm only following that. Okay. Material cost, labor cost. Then there can be overheads, what you call as, which are not materials, not labor, but at the same time, there are expenditures which happens in the factory. All of these basically, and then you have, so overheads. So within let's say, within overheads, you'll also have depreciation, because overheads has machinery which is getting used per year. Okay. So these 4 items all put together is actually what is cost of goods sold. When you're producing, this is a factory now, because we are talking about the example of a car manufacturing company. Okay. You'll have all of these items, but you'll not have depreciation for headquarters here. Depreciation for headquarters is here, separate. Although there's depreciation here also, but you're not clubbing those together. Although there's rent you're paying for the factory here, and there's rent you're paying for the headquarters here, you're not clubbing rent together. Following this? You're getting a sense? Yeah. This is by function. This is by function. By function. When you go by function, you'll go factory, this is what is happening. Headquarters, this is what is happening. Then you have sales offices. Suppose you have sales offices in company. There again, you'll have rent for the offices which they have. There again, you'll have depreciation maybe for cars, etc., which the sales fleet, the street on fleet, the fleet on street which are there will have cars, etc. So those, if they're owned by the company, again, those will also be depreciated. All of those will not be clubbed together under depreciation.
Got it.
Because it doesn't make sense. This is by nature. What is the nature of this expenditure? The nature is it's a depreciation. That's why let's club it together. Doesn't make much sense, but it is allowed. It is allowed. It is allowed. It is not allowed, it is allowed. Okay. And the other one is by function. IFRS income, so this is covered, this is covered. Okay, just one second. So, okay. So we were not here, we were, sorry, just one second. Where is the stepwise adjustments, expenses matching? Yeah, here. So we discussed about this point, Shalja. Okay, by nature or by function. This you're clear about, right? What is the difference between these two? Okay. Now expenses can be grouped. So both of these are allowed, but okay. Adjustments have to be made to make them comparable. One company might do it on this basis, another company might do it on this basis. If you're trying to analyze the two companies, you might want to make them similar. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for you to compare. And how can you find out the details? Those will be in what you call the notes to the financial statements. In the notes to the financial statements, you'll have all the breakup of all of this. Okay. Fine. Okay. So then you have, there can also be differences in the way signs are used. This is a very limited point. What happens is many a times on the income statement, you might have the revenues are put as plus and the outflows are put as minus. Okay. And then there are certain income statements where they just assume that the person will know. Where they put revenue, they'll put it normally. They'll put, say, 100. Then they'll put cost of goods sold. They'll not put a minus here. They'll just say 80. And the person needs to know that this has to be deducted because this is cost of goods sold. So it can be. So at times the signs might be given. At times the signs might not be given. But as a matter of practice, mostly it will all be mentioned in the exam. Okay, it will be mentioned. And by the time you appear for the, you'll know all of these details. So it's a very minor point. This is just a very minor point. Okay. That's
sure.
Okay. Then you have what you call as non-controlling interest. Okay. This is the important. And this second year, CFA level 2, you'll have a chapter on this. But anyhow, for now, what is important is, suppose you have, let's say, a holding company is there. Okay. A holding company is there. And then there's a subsidiary. Subsidiary company is there. So holding company holds, let's say, 90% of the subsidiary. Okay. Then in the income statement, 90% of the profits belong to the holding company, and the rest 10% belongs to non-controlling interest, what is called as minority interest. Okay, so that is again when you're analyzing a company. Suppose you're analyzing a company which is a holding company, then for the subsidiary you'll only consider 90% of the income, not the entire thing. Then single step format and multi-step format. So basically single step format is a very haphazard way of doing it. What you'll do is you'll include all kinds of revenues plus gains up here, and then you'll keep on deducting all the expenses and the losses. Okay, and then you'll put as net profit. You'll put as net profit. So you'll club all the positives together and all the negatives together. And that way, this is called a single step format. Okay, but no one typically, typically you'll find this multi-step format. This one which we have is a multi-step one. You see, you have net sales, then you have a minus, you have gross profits, you have a minus, you have operating income, you have a minus, step by step by step. Okay, the other one is put all the revenues and the gains together, all the losses together, and the expenses. Okay, this is the single step, right? Okay. Then this is already done. Then we have, and we discussed about operating and non-operating, right? This we have discussed. So, so operating is the core part of the business. Non-operating is the non-core part of the business. And we discussed generally that non-operating has gains and losses, but non-operating can also have revenue and expenses. I'm just saying. Okay, it can be any of these. It can be any of these. Okay, but this is not a core part of the business of the company. And then why I've put this example financial firm is because, see, typically speaking, when we're talking about non-core, okay, many times we talk about the fact that the financing charges or the interest is a non-core part of the business. Okay, whatever you're raising capital by taking loans, and for IFRS, typically you consider that as non-core. Okay, the financing charges for that, right? Now, but if it is a bank, let's say, for a bank, what is non-core generally will become core because it's a financial firm. For a financial firm, paying interest on the deposit, whether people are keeping deposits in the bank and you're paying interest upon that, that is a part of your core business, right?
Business, yes.
So it depends upon the type of business. Whether something is core or non-core doesn't depend upon the item. Doesn't depend upon financing charge. That is why non-core or core. It depends upon what is the business of the company. And depending upon the business, core and non-core might be different. Okay?
Yeah.
Another example which I can give you might be, let's say there's an earthquake happens. Okay? There's an earthquake happens and there are losses made by a company. Okay? So let's say a big loss, 10 crores happened because there's destruction of factory, etc. All of that has happened. Factory caught fire, got burned because of an earthquake. Now this, generally speaking, this 10 crores ka loss will be non-core, right? Because this is not something which happens every time. This is the company did not have any control over it. And so this would have, generally speaking, been a part of non-operating gains or losses because earthquake is not operating loss or anything, right? This is a non-operating thing which happened. Okay. Now, but suppose, think about it. This is generally for all companies, this will be true. But if we are a company which is into general insurance, okay.
Yeah.
If we are a company which is into general insurance, then for us, we are into the business of casualty, right?
It's a core.
And this will become core. You got that. Exactly. So it depends upon the company whether something is core, non-core. We just cannot say earthquake means non-core. It can be core for someone. Okay. We cannot say financing charge is non-core. It can be core for a bank or for any financial institution, etc. So it depends upon the nature of the business. That is the point which I'm trying to make here. Okay?
Got it.
Okay, great. So let's move on. Then we have operating income, and after that interest. Oh, this is talking about the format basically. Okay, this format it's talking about operating income, and after that we have interest expenses and tax expenses.
Tax expenses, yeah.
And something which I want you to notice would be, Shailja, one more important point. So when we are deducting all of this, let's say cost of goods sold, like we discussed, it actually includes material, labor, overheads, whatever. And within overhead, there's like depreciation, etc. Okay. So all of these figures have cash charges as well as non-cash. Depreciation is a non-cash charge, right? There's no cash which is flowing out from the company. So that you need to be mindful about. That is an important point, because these are actually charges which flows out of the company. You have to pay the taxes, right? You actually have to pay the taxes.
Pay the tax,
You have to pay the interest expense. Okay. But depreciation you do not have to pay to anyone. Okay. So, so within the income statement, there are a combination of accrual-based expenses as well as cash-based expenses that you need to be mindful of. Okay. So,
got it.
Okay. Now we are moving more towards the theory part of this topic, of this read, let's say. Okay. This is revenue recognition. And when you say recognition in a financial statement, Shailja, the meaning for that is when you put it in the income statement or in the balance sheet or in your journal, and which is journal is not a part of CFA. That's why I'm not saying, but journal or ledger, basically when you put it into your books of accounts, that is what is called as recognition. That is what you call as recognition. So whenever you revenue recognition, which means when do you put this, and the revenue goes in the income statement, right? When will you put it into the income statement as revenue? When will you consider something as, okay, this is revenue for me now? Okay. So that is what this will discuss now. And the important point to remember is it can happen independent of cash flows. We cannot say, how have you recognized this as a revenue? You haven't got cash payment for this. Doesn't matter. The definition is not only on the basis of cash movements at all. Okay. So it is accrual concept based. Again, it is accrual based. Okay. So here we are discussing, so the rules for IFRS are a little different from the rules for GAAP.
Okay.
Just this. See, the sum and substance of all of this, basically, if you think about it, the overall concept is the same. One is you should have transferred the risk and the rewards to the other person. So if I've sold a ship to someone, I should have handed over the ship to the other person, so that if tomorrow it burns down, I'm not the one who gets impacted. So the risk has been transferred to him. Also the reward. Now, if he runs the ship, he's the person who should get the profits out of the ship. So the risk and reward, basically it depends upon the risk and the reward getting shifted to the person. Okay. And typically this happens on possession, but not every time. Typically, when you hand it over to the other person, an asset, that is when the risk and reward gets transferred to the other person. But this is not necessarily true all the time. This might not. Without handing over also, this might happen. And with handing over also, it might not happen. For example, suppose there's what you call as a consignment sales. Have you heard about the time consignment? So what happens is, me as a company, I manufacture, let's say, clothes. Okay. And I have to tie up with a wholesaler whom I tell him that, okay, you take my goods and keep it with you in your godown, in your warehouse, in your wherever you want to keep it. And I'll not, as of now, the goods are mine. It is not yours. Okay, it is mine. Only when you sell it to a retailer, that is when I'll ask for the money from you. So actually, although the possession has shifted to the wholesaler, the risk and reward has not shifted to him, because any damage happens to the clothes which I sent to him, he is not responsible. I'm still responsible.
True.
Okay, so it is risk and rewards typically transfer when the possession transfers to the other person, but not necessarily. This is not necessary. Okay, so but you need to keep this in mind. Risk and reward is the primary maxim on the basis of which you'll go. So this is the main central tenet of what we are discussing. If the risk and rewards get shifted to the other person, which means, and then there's another thing which is important, the person who is going to get the payment, he should be sure that he'll be able to collect the payment. If the person is sure about the fact that he'll be able to collect the payment, and he has basically transferred the risk and reward to the other person, primarily it is 80% of the deal is here between these 2 points, basically. Okay, but then IFRS and GAAP has different rules. Okay, so we'll get in the rules now. This is IFRS conditions, and it is specifically mentioned for goods. Why this is mentioned as goods? Because for service, it is again different.
True.
Okay,
got it.
So for goods, significant risk and rewards have been transferred. Significant, not everything, but majorly. So there might be still a 1% chance of something happening, which might be your risk as of now. But that does not mean it hasn't got shifted. Significantly risk and reward, and this typically becomes very clear. It is not a point which you'll have too much of ambiguity about. Okay, you'll know from you'll know from the example which is given whether significant risk and rewards have got transferred to the other person or not. Okay, not very difficult to make out. Then so after you've shifted something, you should not have any ownership rights or managerial control over it. Let's say we discuss about consignment. Okay. Though the company sent this to the wholesaler, but it still owned it, right? It was saying it is still my goods. So then it has managerial control or ownership, right? Then this will not be considered as a, you cannot recognize the revenue in the income statement. By just sending a consignment to someone, you cannot say, oh, revenue, I'll recognize it as a revenue for me for the year. You cannot do that. Okay, so all of these rules have to be there for you to recognize anything as revenue. Revenue can be measured reliably. So now this is important. If you are not sure how much the revenue will be, what will you write in the income statement?
True.
So that is why if you rely upon what the figure will be, it doesn't have to be the exact figure to the last decimal point or something. But there should be some approximation which you know. Okay, otherwise you cannot recognize a figure on the income statement as a revenue. So it should be something which can be measured reliably. Why this is important? There might be a lot of projects and all, wherein what happens is you're not very sure at the outset how much of revenue will you get. That with certain contracts, as the contract evolves, as it progresses, then only you'll be able to find out how much will be the revenue. You might not be able to know about it right at the outset. In that case, you cannot recognize the revenue in the income statement. Okay?
Got it.
Yeah. Then it is probable. So it is probable that future economic benefits will flow into the entity. Obviously, because if you're selling a good to someone, you expect that money, right? Future economic benefits. It can be a barter deal. It might not be money. It can be a barter. This is why they are saying future economic benefits, because it might be that I'm giving you this, in exchange for that you'll give me this service. That is also okay. Okay.
True.
But it should be probable that you get future economic benefits will flow into the entity. Okay. And the last point is the cost incurred or to be incurred can be measured reliably. So both the revenue and the cost, you have to be able to measure them reliably. Yeah, revenue as well as the cost, you should be able to measure reliably. Then this point about risk and reward, very simple. Then
ownership
person, obviously. And then only this last point is economic benefits, like in the case of all
Yeah.
assets. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. So clear as of now,
Yeah.
Shailja, this is, so once all of these are met for a particular transaction, then you can put in the income statement, you can include this as a revenue, basically.
Revenue.
So
Got
that's
it.
the meaning of recognition. Okay. To
Yeah.
be able to put it in the books as a revenue. Okay. So, yeah, so that is why suppose someone sells something to someone else as a consignment, like we discussed, or there's what you call as channel stuffing, which happens. So even if you're not able to sell it, please keep it with you for the time being. I'll make a billing for all that. So that will not be considered as a revenue. If they are able to find out, that will not be considered as a revenue. If the auditors are able to find that, this will be cancelled from your revenue.
Got it.
And the US GAAP, you'll find out now, they have a specific clause for that. We'll just move on. Before that, we have IFRS conditions for service. This was for goods, you remember, Shailja. This is for goods. Okay. Now, this is for service. Very similar, but amount of revenue. Again, the same thing. Revenue can be measured reliably. Okay.
Yeah.
Cost should be measured reliably. These two are there in both. Okay. Probable economic benefits, the same point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Flow into the entity. And there's just this last point. The stage of completion on the date can be measured reliably. So how much, suppose the total service is 100%, how much out of the 100% has happened till now? Because there's a service contract, it's difficult to quantify, right? It is difficult to quantify. So you'll have to do on the basis of how much has got completed. Yeah, in percentage. And this is again a topic which we discuss a little more in detail as we go along. Okay. So this will be